Hey guys, so I'm in the cool art hallway with Rick and Morty filming this, so this is going to be really cool. So my article was called Analysis, Minority Students Often Left Out of Special Education, and it was found on September 5th, 2017, so it's very recent, in Disability Scoop, and they are known as the premier source for disability news, so I'm hoping that is a legitimate source. Their website looked really professional, so I'm guessing, and all the articles were really relevant, so it looked pretty cool. So there's a study done in the journal called Educational Research, and the study has been ongoing since 2003, where 400,000 students across the U.S. Took part in the National Assessment of Educational Progress, also known as the Nation's Report Card. And the researchers from Penn State and University of California, Irvine, found that in all grade levels, students from minority backgrounds are much less likely to be identified as having a disability than their peers who are white. This is really important because up until this point, there have even been regulations put in place where they're trying to prevent an overrepresentation of minority students in special education. They're trying to lower that because up until now that's kind of what the norm has been because of discrepancies in English language learning and things like that. So even though these regulations are being put in place, the studies are kind of showing now that what has been known up to this point is not actually true, and that students from minority backgrounds are not actually being represented the way they should be. The IDEA requires states to track schools that have significant disproportionality. So essentially, they're supposed to look at which groups are being placed into like more restrictive environments, receiving specific disciplinary actions, and see if there's an equal distribution. Until this point, states were not using this regulation consistently and effectively, so the results have been kind of like skewed across the board. And new regulations are currently being put in place to address the issue and hold all schools and states to the same standards. And the biggest thing with that is that this has affected the results of this study. So that's pretty much what the whole study was about. I don't really exactly have a strong opinion either way, because I grew up in a very diverse environment where white was not actually the majority at all. So my personal views of diversity and minorities are very different from, I think, what most of the population would be like seeing it as. The only situations that I've personally experienced in my time as a student were seeing a lot of students who were placed into special education before receiving language learning assistance. And then once they were put into English language learning situations, they were immediately brought back into the general education classrooms, and their IEPs and their 504s weren't needed. I guess my biggest reaction and my biggest question to this is that, is there a situation where students from minority backgrounds are in need of special education services and they're just not getting them? Or is this simply stating that our previous knowledge of the demographics of special education has been incorrect this whole time? I think in either situation, it's definitely an issue that needs to be talked about more, because, I mean, depending on where you're teaching, you could end up in a school where you don't have many students with a minority background, or you could end up in a school where you have tons of students in minority backgrounds. And I think just getting a better picture of across the board, like what are the demographics of special education right now? What can we do to improve them overall? And how to just be better teachers in these situations, because it doesn't seem to be very clear right now. But I think the study that was done was very cool, and like clearly we've been thinking about this in the wrong way, and I think it's partially because the standards were not the same and they weren't being put into place the right way. But I think overall, really cool article. I'm excited to talk to everyone else about it in the coming class. See you guys later.